reading is from Joshua, chapter 3. We'll be reading all of chapter 3, so all 17 verses. We had been in Exodus, so now we're transitioning from that time of being in the desert to receiving the inheritance of the promised land. And it begins in this chapter, the receiving of the inheritance. The Hebrew people will cross over into the promised land in this chapter. Early in the morning, Joshua and all the Israelites set out from Shittim and went to the Jordan, where they camped before crossing over. After 3 days, the officers went throughout the camp, giving orders to the people. When you see the ark of the covenant of the Lord your God and the priests, who are Levites, carrying it, you are to move out from your position and follow it. Then you will know which way to go, since you have never been this way before. But keep a distance of about 2,000 yards between you and the ark. Do not go near it. Joshua told the people, consecrate yourselves, for tomorrow the Lord will do amazing things among you. Joshua said to the priests, take up the ark of the covenant and pass on ahead of the people. So they took it up and they went ahead of them. And the Lord said to Joshua, today I will begin to exalt you in the eyes of all Israel, so they may know that I am with you as I was with Moses. Tell the priests who carry the ark of the covenant, when you reach the edge of the Jordan's waters, go and stand in the river. Joshua said to the Israelites, come and listen to the words of the Lord your God. This is how you will know that the living God is among you, and that he will certainly drive out before you the Canaanites, Hittites, Hivites, Perizzites, Girgashites, Amorites, and Jebusites. So the ark of the covenant of the Lord of all the earth will go into the Jordan ahead of you. Now then, choose 12 men from the tribes of Israel, one from each tribe. As soon as the priests who carry the ark of the Lord of all the earth, set foot in the Jordan, its waters flowing downstream will be cut off and will stand up in a heap. So when the people broke camp to cross the Jordan, the priests carrying the ark of the covenant went ahead of them. Now the Jordan is at flood stage all during the harvest. Yet as soon as the priests who carried the ark reached the Jordan and their feet touched the water's edge, the water from upstream stopped flowing. It piled up in a heap at a great distance away at a town called Adam in the vicinity of Zarephath, while the water flowing down to the sea of Arabah, the salt sea, was completely cut off. So the people crossed over opposite Jericho. The priest who carried the ark of the covenant of the Lord stood firm on the dry ground in the middle of the Jordan, while all Israel passed until the whole nation had completed the crossing on dry ground. The word of God for the people of God.
Thanks be to God.
I do want to show you one slide which will help us see the geography of our story. We see in the lower right-hand corner is where we think Shittim was located. And it said they moved towards the Jordan River from the town of Shittim, where they camped then for 3 days before crossing. You see way up at the top, Adam. Now, I don't recall whether the city of Adam is 20 kilometers or 20 miles. It's one or the other. I don't recall which it is, but whether it's 20 kilometers or 20 miles, Adam is way out of sight. You're not seeing that town. And it's near the town of Zarethan, which is up to the left. And although the town of Jericho is not given in our story, that is where the Israelites are heading to. That'll be the first city they encounter in their conquest as they cross over the Jordan River into the land that had been promised to Abraham. There they will build their very first place of rest, known as a Gilgal, which is a place of worship and rest, and there are perhaps as many as 7 Gilgals that we know of in the Old Testament. So that's the geography for our message this morning. But what is our message this morning? Our message is that God is about to give the Hebrew people, the Israelites, the sons of and daughters of Abraham, their inheritance in the promised land. And he's doing it by means of, in some ways, remembering the story of the Red Sea crossing. But in many ways, it's very different. I mean, it's different because when they crossed the Red Sea, they were escaping captivity. They were fleeing an army that was intent on either killing them or recapturing them. Now they're going to cross a body of water to claim a land that was promised to them, to collect an inheritance. There's a reenactment that's going on, and part of the reason for that reenactment of what's going on is so that they will remember. You see, they've been in the desert for 40 years. Anyone who's 40 years or younger never had an opportunity to see for themselves what their parents talked about. They never could recall, because they never saw it, the sea parting because of Moses. So God is going to graciously give him his own testimony of a powerful work done for them as they inherit the new land. I mean, it's not like Limekiln Creek. You know, you can cross that almost any time of year. But we are during harvest season. It says the Jordan is at flood. You see that the Jordan at flood, it's up to 60 feet deep. It's up to a quarter mile across. At flood tide, or flood season, it's turbulent. It's flowing hard. There's a great deal of elevation change from the Sea of Galilee to the north, which is off of our map, to the Dead Sea, which you just see the top of it on our map at the bottom. The river drops 660 feet over that distance. It is a fast-moving river. And what we know about fast-moving rivers is that they tend to have a rocky bottom. And when you block the river, it drains quickly. If you have a low grade on your river, you've blocked the source, it takes forever for that river to drain out. But if it's a steep riverbed, that water flows out, and you're left with a rocky bottom on which people will cross. It's a curious story. I want you to remember. There's a lot of ceremony with this. I mean, for the Exodus, we had the Passover, and they celebrated the Passover every year. All 40 years in the desert, they celebrated the Passover. The time when God told them, go out, have a special meal, take the blood, cover your doorposts. The angel of death will pass over your home. Reenact this every year, the Passover meal. Now for the Jews, there's a ceremony. The priests will lead you. You'll go out in procession. The ark will lead the way. The ark will be in the riverbed, and you will walk by it. You'll be able to look and tell your children. Not in this story, they will also collect stones from the riverbed and make a memorial when they cross over, so that we would remember. Remember that God was faithful. Remember that they were told to cross a river that is turbulent in flow, is deep, and it is wide. Go. Don't stop. And when you put your foot in the river, it will stop flowing. Now, I don't know how God did this miracle. We know from history that up at Adam, on the chart, from 1200 on, there are 6 recorded instances when a mudslide at Adam caused the Jordan River to be blocked. And it ranges from many hours to one instance where the river was blocked for 2 days before the water rose enough to topple the mud embankment, wash it away, and restore its flow. Did God use a mudslide to stack the water up at Adam? Way out of sight, 20 kilometers or 20 miles to the north? I don't know. What I do know is that whatever it was perfect timing. God said, now's the time to cross. And when you get there, when you put your foot in the river, it will disappear before you. Well, this is a wonderful story, and it's great for the Israelites. But what does it say to us? What does this story say to us? This story tells us that in our own lives, if the Lord calls us to do something, we should anticipate that the Lord may be working things behind the scenes that we can't see. That we may encounter terrible challenges in our lives, perhaps that cut our heart to the quick, that would feel like walking and seeing a turbulent river that is wide and deep and fast running, and say, I know not how I'm going to cross that. But if that is where God has led us, be assured that that river is crossable. That God has been working things behind the scenes, out of sight. That there will be the equipping that you need to do what God calls you to do, to overcome the trial that is in front of you. God often does this in fellowship, brings others alongside to help us. So we ought not be quick to reject people's help when help is offered. Instead, we should be quick to accept it in faith and in fellowship and in thanksgiving. And on the flip side of that, God has been equipping you and me over the years to be able to help others. So when they come to their fast-moving, turbulent, deep, wide river, that we might come alongside and be their help. God has equipped each and every one of us to be an aid to others. And that's his intention for us. He's been working in other people's lives by equipping us for their moment of need. And even when we come to face times of terrible need, God has been working things behind the scenes, out of sight. That river will not stop us. We need not be afraid. And that is our message for today. God is working things behind the scenes for you and for me. Our hymn of response is, "Oh, Worship the King."